everyone. Glad you could join us tonight. Tonight we have a special guest by the name of Ryan. He's going to be talking a little bit about how light has helped him. So with that, we're going to start off with our first video that I usually play. So here we go. 15 years back, I realized that light could make a huge difference on the body. I ended up designing this very powerful light using LED technology. With this amount of very high power density, it can reach through the tissues and travel right to the joints. But the key is that the power density and the area is extremely important to deliver that light into that. The mitochondria receives that light and converts that energy into the cell. So it's like giving the cell super high octane fuel, and they run like a jet, and they're able to do all the things for repair in that. What are the products we have? Well, we have a small device, which is actually large when it comes to light therapy. You have a fairly large area of light and a high power density that can be used for different parts of the body, like your finger, shoulder, back, neck, knees, ankle, anywhere on the body. And then we have what's called the mini canopy, which is about a foot square in size. And then we have our full-size canopy, which is basically 6 of the mini canopies. And then we have another device, which is the helmet, and that device can help for mental issues, for brain injuries, for concussions, for PTSD, TBI, all of those kinds of things. And there's new research out there that shows it could be helpful for not only strokes, but dementia, Alzheimer's, and Parkinson's, and just different brain issues. Our plans are to move this technology into every area of the world where there's pain and inflammation, which is basically everywhere, and to expand that so people understand all the applications where this technology can be used to help them in their health in the body as a wellness device. People are looking for how they can treat themselves without drugs. All right, so in the background here, we got Ryan. Ryan, I want to thank you for joining us tonight.
You're welcome.
And tell us a little bit. You like to run.
I do. I run anything from a marathon to 100-mile races.
Sorry, 100 miles?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
All right. And but then let's say you do. How often have you done that?
I've done over 20.
20 100-mile,
Well,
20.
or longer. So an ultra marathon is anything longer than a marathon.
Okay.
So 50K up to 100 miles. I've done over 20.
Wow. Okay. That's not me, folks. I but no, that's cool. That's cool. So what happened then?
A couple of years ago, pain started developing in my hip,
Right.
and I kind of just ignored it for a while, thinking it would go away. Took a couple months, nothing happened. Started spending money on a physio and
Physio, okay.
yeah.
And what did you do? Like 10 treatments or that kind of
The
thing?
first guy was probably 20 treatments.
Okay.
And then I went to chiropractor,
Right.
2 different chiropractors.
Maybe 10 each?
No, those were less, maybe 3 and 7.
Okay. All right. Looking for relief.
Well, just let it heal.
Right. Right. But it wasn't happening.
No. wasn't happening.
And you pursued other.
I had an ultrasound, it showed up negative. I didn't want to wait 6 months for a
MRI.
Yeah, so I thought it'd be better in 6 months, so I didn't sign up for one, and
Yeah.
maybe I should have, I don't know.
Right. So, from there, how long were you dealing with this kind of, what would it do? It just make it difficult for you to run, or you just couldn't run at all?
I could run, it was just pain tolerance. How
Okay.
much pain was I willing to put up with while I ran?
Okay. All right.
I mean, I was competitive at the smaller local races, and I just didn't want to be trying to compete for the wins in these smaller races with the hip being the way it was.
Okay. All
And I
right.
didn't know if I was hurting it worse.
Right. So then about a year ago, You found out about the light. How'd that happen?
I was at a creation seminar thing.
Okay.
I saw Pete Steck, went up and talked to him, asked what he was doing. He talked about the red light, and I had heard about it, different podcasts and stuff. So I told him I was interested. We talked for a while, and he went from there.
Okay, cool. So, hey, by the way, creation, tell us the creation. Do you remember what it was? A creation webinar, a seminar? Where was this?
Is that a Glenridge Bible Chapel?
Okay, all right.
Answers in Genesis was there.
Oh, all right. Okay,
Yeah.
good, good, great group.
Yeah.
And well, you do know we're trying to use a little bit of all the wavelengths, just one piece of it from the sun
Right.
that was created, I believe.
That's not right.
Yeah, and so if you looked at the spectrum of light, people, even yourself, didn't realize this, but white light is really a mixture of all the other wavelengths.
Yeah. When you said it, I remember from middle
Okay.
school, like
All right.
black being the opposite of black, like,
Yeah,
because the light wasn't reflecting, right? In
Yeah.
black.
yeah. So there's when you're talking of wavelengths from the sun, you go from ultraviolet. There's some ultraviolet that comes down. There's UVC, which is very destructive, causes DNA damage. Then you've got UVB, which is a 297 nanometer, a wavelength that is extremely important to everybody because 297 nanometer is causes vitamin D to create vitamin D in your skin.
To synthesize.
Yeah, to help the synthesis and in creating the vitamin D. And what was crazy is I learned a few years ago is that not only do we need it as humans, but birds and dogs need vitamin D. And
Oh, yeah.
well, how would they get it if they have feathers and they're all covered up, or if they have a thick layer of fur?
Right.
It turns out that their body secretes certain oils on the fur or the feathers of birds. And while they've groomed themselves and cleaned themselves, the UVB actually reacts with the oil and causes vitamin D. So they're licking up the vitamin D like when they clean themselves.
Wow.
It's kind of cool.
Yeah.
So back about a year ago, you met Pete, and then what happened from there?
Well, I ordered one of the Palm. I don't know which one it was.
Yeah, I think it was Palm Professional or Ultimate, one of those.
It was the more expensive one.
Okay, all right, probably the Ultimate then. Yeah.
So I started using it once or twice a day, and the pain went away like within a week or two.
Right.
And I'd stop using it, the pain would come back. I'd use it, the pain would go away, and it's been like that for a year now. If I'm consistent with it, it never hurts. But I forget to. Well, I don't forget. I just don't use it when it doesn't hurt.
Right, right. It's part of. I mean, yeah, it's part of the way. If it isn't broken, don't fix it, kind of
Right.
thing. And it does take a little bit of time, but hey, but pain free is pretty decent, isn't it?
It's been pain free.
Yeah.
If I'm consistent using it, there's 100% pain free.
Yeah. And even coming over here tonight, I found out you did a run tonight.
Well, I finished work about 3 o'clock, so I had to kill time.
And you work whereabouts?
I ran on the beachfront, which is like what, 2 or 3K from here.
Okay. All right.
I did a solid workout.
Okay.
I'm training for a 100-miler in May up in Dundas.
Okay. All right. Very good. Very good. And to be able to be pain free is good stuff. And I just as a person learns on the light that it's good for other parts of the body. I just mentioned about nasal. You could help with sinuses. And
See, the problem is I always do it when I'm reading at night,
oh, okay.
when I'm in bed reading. So I don't know if it'd be harder to read when that thing's on my nose, but I should do it because my nose is always blocked.
Okay. All right. Well, you gotta give that a try.
Yeah,
But Ryan, I so much appreciate you coming on tonight
you're welcome.
and sharing with the folks out here. And it's a good thing your friend Pete there mentioned it. And I've mentioned to others here on the air, they need to share this with their friends because their friends will never know unless somebody tells them.
Right.
So I'm glad that Pete did that for you. And And now you probably do it for a couple other people too.
I mean, I tell everyone.
Thank you.
You're
Thank you. I really appreciate that. Well, Ryan, thank you so much for coming on tonight.
You're welcome.
Okay, great. Okay, very good. So now what I'll do is I'm going to show you a little bit more. We didn't get a chance in one of the other webinars and I missed it. So what I'd like to do is show you my new friend, Alfred. I want to introduce you to Alfred. And there we go. This is Alfred. He turns out to be a real human skull. His teeth fell out, but I do have them, so I've got to give him I got to play the dentist role and glue his teeth back in. But this is very, very interesting when you start looking at the design. For those that haven't seen this, you can see when I'm moving this, this is the pivot point right here. And a lot of people have a lot of people have TMJ problems. And that is because the muscle going up through here, like it's hard to do it in a camera. But as the muscle passes, and this is a really, it's called the transmandibular joint. And well, that's where a lot of problems happen for people and they can't open their mouth very wide. But why I want to show you Alfred is because this is Alfred's skull. And so many people have said to me, how can light penetrate the skull? Well, it's really neat. Lately, over the last 6 months, actually it's longer than that, but we've got a lot of feedback now with our helmet device. And the helmet device is really 10 of the palm lights just strategically located over the whole area. And we've seen really good results, which I'll get into a little later, for Parkinson's, strokes, concussions, brain fog. But how is it possible that light can go through a skull? Well, as it turns out, light can actually go through the skull fairly easily. And I'm going to just show you by turning off the upper light here because it is rather bright, and show you that here's my palm light, right? And if I put my palm light behind it, you can see the light shining right through this skull. And what you can also see, look at this. The light is coming from there and it's traveling along the skull, even though the palm light is inside. So the light not only transmits directly through the skull, some of it, but some of it transfers. It's called a light pipe, almost traveling along the skull as a conductive medium. And so if I take this palm light and I put it on the back of on the top of the head, now I realize there's no hair on top of this skull. And by the way, you can also see the sutures that allow for the skull to move ever so slightly in the different plates. So that's why you see a little more light coming through. It's because that's actually a slightly flexible joint. But if I put the palm light on there like this and I turn it around, you can see now I'm moving it to this side, move it to that side, you can see the light going right through. Okay. So light can really definitely go through the skull. And when you have light then coming all the way around, as we do with the helmet device, that allows for a very even illumination, especially when it goes through the skull. As I said, the light has a path to travel along the bone as well. So in the end, it ends up being very, very uniform. This is also cool, is when we're talking of light penetrating through the sinuses. And it really does work better when I probably do it this way. But you can see if you're shining the light on the sinuses, it's actually getting right into the brain area as well. Also, when you're doing a light treatment on the eyes, it's coming through, as you can see, through the area where the bone is not, but it also goes through the bone as well. So that proves to be quite interesting. I also want to show you another little demonstration, and that is how different wavelengths have an effect. So what I've done here is I've taken a fairly expensive light meter that I have. All right. And what I'm going to do is this light meter allows me to measure light. So, and it actually shows here the amount of optical power in milliwatts that's coming into the sensor. That little tiny hole here, which has a electronic detector in behind it. And yeah, this whole thing is over $2,500 US, just to give you an idea how much cost. And I've got quite a number of different types of light measurement devices. But let's do something here. I'll put that light measurement device on the inside of the skull like that, and I'll just hold it against there. Okay. And what I'll do is, so as I hold it up, you see it's actually, you can see here, it's you can't see my, there, microwatts. So it's very low. It's millionths of a watt of power. Okay. When I put the light on, it's going to go quite a bit higher. And you see that in this case, if I move it even a little bit around, it's got 3 milliwatts of light getting through the skull. That's pretty sizable amount of light energy. Now, when it comes to the, when you're using the helmet, you're getting something similar, but now it's over the whole skull. So it's penetrating the brain from all directions. Now, if I switch to the 810 nanometer, will we get a higher light measurement through this skull than 660? Well, 660 is a certain wavelength, and 810 is a longer wavelength. Longer wavelengths penetrate the body easier. So right now, I've got this, this is the Palm Ultimate. I'm just going to put it against there again, and we got 2.4 milliwatts. I'm going to switch to the 810 nanometer right now, and you can see now it's got 17 milliwatts. So and you can see, there you go. You can see between the skull, you can see the little lights coming on. That's 810 nanometer, and you see 17 milliwatts. I'm switching it back to the red 660, and you can see now 2.5 milliwatts. So quite a considerable amount of difference. So we're talking 7 times more light is penetrating the skull when we're doing the 810 nanometer. And 1050 has the same type of results as well. Now that also applies if a person doesn't have the palm. Maybe they have the, we're talking a mini canopy here. Now the mini canopy has been used because people have used it for back pain. They may buy something like this and they use it for back pain and other areas. But would it help with being able to treat the brain as well? You know, some people want to treat their face for cosmetic purposes and help with the collagen production. But what about treating the brain? So I can do the same type of thing here, and you can see the 810 nanometer little pinkish dots there on this. And I also have the red light here. Oh, now you can't see the meter. Okay, how am I going to do this? Okay, I'll have to do it this way. So right now you're seeing That's 7 microwatts, okay? Now I'm bringing the skull right up to the surface. And even here, I'm getting 1.4 milliwatts of light coming from the mini canopy into the skull and into the area, and that's why I'm getting that reading of 1.37 milliwatts. So the same thing happens. It's just a little difficult for me to do this way, but I can. So if I put this against there again, okay, I got my almost 1.3. I switch it now to the 810 nanometer, and I've got 7.2. So that just gives you an idea that the amount of optical power that comes through at the longer wavelength is more. And well, that's got other benefits. So you really want red and near infrared light. Both of them are very valuable when you're talking of treatment. So when we're talking of the red, when we're, let's say with this device here, this is this is still the Ultimate. I picked up the same one. So that's got the red. Penetration wise, you can see as well the light going right through my hand here. And if the camera here, this camera here could pick up the 810 nanometer, which it just barely picks it up. It's actually would just be blasting through my hands, but you don't see it, unfortunately. I wish I do have other cameras that make that possible. So with our, I'll just explain our different devices. We have what's called the professional device, which has the 660 810, and then we have the Ultimate here, and that has the 660 810 as well. And the 810 is with the Ultimate, we have about 25% more optical power, which helps to make it happen, like penetrate a little bit deeper, plus make things happen a little faster. Okay, so that's with the Ultimate. And then we have the Super Palm, which is the 660 nanometer, the same optical power as the Ultimate, but then instead of the 810 nanometer, it has 1050. And I can't, when I look at this right now, I can't see any of these LEDs, but you can see them now on your camera coming through the screen. That one light here is an indicator to show how that it's running. Otherwise, you wouldn't see anything coming. You can feel it, but that's why we put that indicator on here, there. One other thing that people are unaware of is when it comes to laser and LEDs, I have a device here, and there's so many that it's been out there for a long time, and I think we're finally starting to help people understand that in the end, I do have a presentation that it did in England that shows the depth, let's say going through 2¼ inches of steak or 2¼ inches of chicken or 2¼ inches of pork, and having a very special measurement device, special ball that picks up all the light. Doesn't matter whether it's a laser or LED, but that when the light shines through all that material, all that tissue, I know it doesn't have any blood through it. It's not a live animal, but it gives us some idea of what's happening. And what we were able to show is that if you start off with our palm device and you shone through that much material with a given power of, say, approximately 5 watts, which was coming through the opening into the special ball, that 5 watts would go through that tissue and obviously dissipate into the tissue. But if you took then a laser, and it was a 5-watt optical laser, and you shone it, now a laser has that sharp dot of, now this is not a 5-watt laser. This is just a little laser indicator, right? But if you shone that 5-watt laser on top through the tissue, in the end, when you went through the other side, it didn't matter whether it was 5 watts from a laser or 5 watts from an LED. The difference being, though, is that laser devices you can pay from $15,000 to $30,000. Some are down to $10,000. But when it comes to our devices that stack, let's say the Super Palm 1050 against the 1050 nanometer laser, 5 watts of each version, ours gives the same amount of light through the tissue, but instead of paying $10, $15, $30,000, our device is available for the Super Palm is available for $1,900. So that shows you a little bit. Now I'll come back to a little bit more about the helmet. I'm just going to move this over here and bring this over. So we do have the regular helmet that we have has the 660 nanometer light coming out of it. And if I put my hand in the middle, I immediately feel the energy going into my hand. It's unlike the heat that you feel from a stove. That's far infrared. So there's nothing hot on the inside of this device. It's lukewarm at best on the inside, but you feel that instant energy that comes into, which is absorbed as it penetrates the flesh, and that's why you feel some warmth on it. When it comes to this device, and you do the 810, remember what I showed you with the skull? The 810 nanometer will go deeper into the body, just like it will if I do a palm on my hand. That light will go better through at the 810 nanometer. So it really depends on the type of tissue as to how much losses. If you're talking more bone or more fatty tissue or more muscle tissue, all of that's different as far as whether it's the scattering of the light and how much is getting absorbed. And obviously at certain wavelengths, you have blood absorption. So at 660, you have more absorption by the blood. So this helmet anyways has the 660 nanometer, as I was just showing, and it has the 810 nanometer. We do have you can see a little bit of the light here, but I can definitely feel the energy coming into my hand. And we've been able to help people with different cognitive problems. We have that on our website. When it comes to, one of the studies that was done in West Virginia, and that had to do with opiate addiction and depression. And we saw that the study was done with a starting point of 50 people and 25 people of each. 25 people of each, two different groups. 25 had the light treatment, and the other 25 did not. And the 25 that did have the light treatment, significant improvement in lowering their depression scores, lowering their cravings for drugs, opiates, and other things, the markers that were made or done in this case. And imagine that. In this study, to make it easier, they had a lot of trouble trying to get the ethics board approval for this helmet using the 660 nanometer because there's not as much research out there on 660. So they decided just to do the 810 nanometer, and it was a 3-minute treatment of 810 nanometer twice a week. 3 minutes, twice a week. And over 2 months, the people in the group that had the light therapy did much, much better. Now, we've seen with our helmet strokes, significant improvement in cases with strokes, verbal, being able to talk clearly after the light treatment. And this is even after one treatment. In one case, it was 2 months after the stroke. The other case was like 20 years after the stroke. So significant improvement. concussions. We have videos on our website, in particular one young boy by the name of Tyson, and how much improvement he had when he had fallen and hit his head on the concrete in the church and a church basement floor while they were doing there was some sports. And when he hit his head at the very same moment, another kid had fallen on his head. So he really smashed his head into the thing. He ended up with a surface hematoma, some significant bruising there, but goose egg. But he when he came somehow I think he just blacked out for a second or two, like just for very short. But when he came through, he said, why does my head hurt? And his mother answered the question, said that, you hit your head really bad on the concrete. And then what did he do? 2 minutes later, he says, why does my head hurt? And he had no short-term memory. He was asking his parents almost 24 hours, up to 24 hours, why that happened. He had scans done, and we've actually got this now, this study posted, or this case study. And he, after the very first treatment under the helmet, he was significantly improved. He had to stay in, at first he had to stay in a dark room and no video stimulation, just some audio books. But that was it. And within the next day after the treatment, he was already able to read a book. But the day before, he could not. He couldn't even read a sentence without feeling very nauseous. So that's what can happen with concussions. Lately, we're looking at expanding our research in the area of Parkinson's, because we've got some people that have been able to significantly improve when it comes to Parkinson's. And I would have played that recording that I had made. Unfortunately, not all the time does electronics want to cooperate with you. And in this case, somehow the file got changed and the microphone volume was way, way down. You could barely hear the person after I did the recording. One of the few times I forgot to double check my mic, but it happens to us all, right? But in this interview I did with the person, they were not able to, laugh. There was always a straight face. There was no smiles. And it was so fun to have them in the interview, because I did crack a joke, and he laughed. It's a good joke. It's a clean joke. Well, I'll just say, because it has to do with memory. So two couples are in the car. They're going to go. Two senior couples are in the car. They're going to go out to eat, and the two guys are in the front. And the driver says, "Hey, Jim, what restaurant are we going?" Jim says, "I don't know." He says, "Come on, I don't remember where we're supposed to go." And Jim says, I can't help you. And then he says, "Hey, Jim, what's the name of that flower that has the poker things on it? And usually it's red, and women like to get them." And Jim's thinking, he says, "A rose?" He says, "Yeah. Hey, Rose, what's the name of the restaurant we're going to?" And he just broke out in this big smile and was laughing. But apparently he hasn't done that for years, and was able to, this past, during Christmas time, was able to have conversations with people. And everybody noticed, not just his wife, but other relatives noticed how much of an improvement he's made. And that was all since just doing 1 to 2 treatments a week with our helmet. And that was 4-minute treatments. So that's 1 minute of the red and 3 minutes of the near infrared. So to have that from the beginning of December, and already by late December, significant improvement in both of the case studies that we have. And there's some other case studies that are also happening as well. And we hope that they're going to come together and we'll be able to put them together. But we are seeing, like I say, the one fellow, that one of the tests they do is to draw out a clock and put the hands like an analog clock and put the numbers, 1 through 12 on the thing. And most, as Parkinson's continues to go forward, they cannot cognitively, they can't draw a circle, they can't put the numbers on, they can't put hands. In the end, it doesn't even look like a clock anymore. And this person was able to redraw a clock, not only a round clock, but one with the numbers all in the right locations, including the hands on the clock, and he was able to tell the time on that. So it's something that can be very, very beneficial, and we can hardly wait till some of the academic circles pick up on doing studies on Parkinson's and concussions and TBI and many other cognitive issues. Brain fog. In my days when I had severe COVID, I could not carry a sentence through. I'd stop partway through, had tried to do it again, and it was only until I went right through, like I tried, and other people would try and interpret the sentence for me because they didn't want to wait. But one of the doctors I was talking to, I had done my treatment on my lungs because my lung oxygen at one point was at 80%, or my blood oxygen was at 80%. And I was using the mini canopy on my lungs with the 810 nanometer mainly, some 660. And I improved in 2.5 weeks substantially from having double lung pneumonia. But the doctor said, that's fantastic what we're seeing with your lungs. But he says, how are you treating your brain? I didn't even think of that. I mean, I didn't have the mental capacity to really think things through. And so that's when I started using the mini canopy on my brain, like from one side to the other and then from the back, and finally started improving my ability on being able to think. COVID, so I had really bad brain fog. I had all the symptoms that one could want with COVID. The swelling of the ankles, my gums would bleed profusely just touching it with a toothbrush. There was just a whole pile of problems. I'm so glad that God decided He still wanted me on this earth for some reason. So here I am sharing about how I got through this all. And yeah, it was quite the run. But anyways, let me see if I can answer some of your questions here because we've got some questions popping up. So let's see what we can do. So just one sec. Lauren, nice to have you join us tonight for your first webinar. Great you were able to join us. Okay, that was fine. I hope that everybody was able to hear us okay. There was some question about whether we were breaking up or not. I think it was another external connection problem. Russ is mentioning, sorry, you scrolled out of the way there for me, up, so I can see. No, I just right there. No, you missed there. Russ mentioned God is good to give us vitamin D. Cool about how the birds get vitamin D. Yeah, it is. And when it comes to design, all the right things have to be in place for us to work properly. And vitamin D is so really, really important. So Lauren also asked the question, would 1050 be best for treating muscle pain? either 810 or 1050 is good. Really comes back to the depth that one is trying to go, and the possibility is that you can penetrate a little deeper with a 1050, depending on the tissue and that. I was going to show you. Well, I'll just do it right now. It's a little easier for me to do it with one thing. I'll do so. I know this comes back to one of the other webinars. By the way, you can go to past webinars and see many of the, well, all of the, well, I guess it's most of the webinars I've done. So one thing I did on one of the other webinars is I did this, and it was a little awkward because I didn't have this nice stand. But here's the sensor again. I put the sensor in the back of my hand, and as you can see, there's 0.4 millionths of a watt coming through there, okay? When I go for the 660 nanometer, I now have 61 microwatts coming through, okay, at the 660. And now I'm going to switch it up to the 810, and we're 620 microwatts, which is 0.6 milliwatts. So the red was just under 60 microwatts to almost 600. So 10 times improvement of light getting through my hand through my palm, just by going from 660 to the 810. Okay. Lauren is mentioning here, I know I'm jumping around a little bit. Lauren, thank you. By the way, thank you for all those that are asking questions. Lauren says here, this is the best LED helmet I've seen yet. Thank you, Lauren. I love the design. It reminds me of the heating lamps you sit under at the salon. Yeah, but that's far infrared. And what we're working with is the near infrared, red and near infrared, which can penetrate. So does this treatment, this is from Anam? Anime. Oh, I see. Sorry. Just Anime, thank you for your question here. Does this treatment heal arthritis forming in the hip joint? How many times a day do you apply the light? Well, any time that you can provide the light energy, it can go in and help the cells to do repair, do healing, and many things. So it is amazing. I can't say that for sure it's going to heal the hip joint as far as heal the arthritis, but it can go a long ways to slowing or stopping the progression. And maybe in a long period of time, we don't have that yet. Maybe over a long period of time, it actually could reverse it. But the main thing is to go pain-free is one thing, and also to be able to not go downhill and get worse. That's important too. Question came up about the benefits on women's reproductive organs. Well, one thing I am aware of is that when it comes to reproduction, it is that it's like 10,000 things have to be right for everything to happen properly. And when it comes to any one of those things, if you mess up with any one of those things, you can cause problems for the reproductive area. And one thing that is very interesting is when it comes to inflammation. People can get problems with inflammatory problems anywhere along the reproductive areas, and that will cause problems. And if you're able to reduce the inflammation and help heal those tissues, great things can happen. As a matter of fact, I know of one group, they make a very, it's about the same optical power as this device, only instead of this, they use lasers. And as I mentioned, there's really, other than a cost difference, the amount of optical power doesn't change. How much is actually the optical power doesn't change between, if they're the same, it doesn't change anything to do with really with depth of penetration. So there is a unit on the market. It's about $80,000, and they've had with laser and same type of optical power as what I have with this device. And they did a trial with 250 patients and couples, and 150 of the women were able to get pregnant in the first month of that light treatment. So these were women that were having difficulty, men and women. So it can help both for men and women. And in this case, 150 out of 250. And then it turned out that it was like another 50 were able to conceive after by the end of the second month. And it's pretty neat. There was one fellow that's done the one fellow that done the camera picture of this. His wife, they were trying to conceive for 5 years, and it just, everything they tried, nothing was helping. And she had some kind of back issue, and she decided to, since they had the light there and he was taking the pictures, she decided that she would try the light on her back. Well, within 3 weeks, she was pregnant. So they were overjoyed. I suggested that they call the child Red, RED, because of red light. Nah, they didn't go for that. But anyways, it was, they were super excited about that new child that came on board, and it was perfectly healthy. That was great. Okay. Another question here is, as a skateboarder, I'm living with many past injuries, but I didn't think there was any way to treat my concussion. Oh, the beauty of light being able to penetrate the brain is really quite something, and how it can help repair problems with brain function. Guy asks, can you share more details about treating your brain, i.e. how many sessions and how long the treatments? So with the helmet, I'll just come back to this here. I'll take this off so I don't break my meter. So with the helmet, if you're using a helmet, now if you're using a palm light, you would just basically do 10 areas of the brain. And it would take you 10 times longer, because this does 10 spots at the same time. So it's not easy for me to show, but anyways, you can see there's 10 of the LED pods in here. A person would use what we're finding as a standard treatment is 1 minute of the red wavelengths and 3 minutes of the near infrared. And one would do that. This is the near infrared there. Would do that up to 3 times a day if they have it at home. There's still, as I shared with you, they have they did the study with the opiate addiction with only twice a week. So there's still benefit if you had to go to a clinic to use one of our helmets twice a week. I would recommend probably 3 times a week. But if you end up having it at home, I would definitely move it up to 3 times a day, morning, noon, and night. Sometimes people also will notice that they may sleep far better at night when they do this, and helping with insomnia and other things. But there are some people
and it hasn't been many, but it actually stimulates them. So they end up more wired, they get more energy. Maybe not so much wired, but just more energy. And with that, they have a harder time trying to fall asleep. So it's something that you'd have to watch out if that's going to cause you trouble to use the light too late in the evening. Maybe last treatment, if you have an issue with that, is to do the treatment before 6 o'clock in the evening. Okay. All right. Let's see here. What about a torn labrum in my shoulder? Yeah, it's amazing how the body can heal, whether it's bones. We've been able to see bone stuff heal very quickly. There was another podcast I had with the fellow that broke his ribs, and significant improvement with his 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 bone healing. And we've seen that not just in the ribs, other parts of the body, tremendous speed. And so I believe that if you gave it enough time and you did daily treatments, you could probably heal some of these areas. This is all something newer, and why we don't have 15 years of research is it just hasn't been the optical power that you have from one of these devices now available. So now you can get enough energy deeper into the area right to the bone. And that's what we got with these devices. Okay. Um, Nina's asking, does it help with healing a detached retina after surgery to reattach? As a matter of fact, we do have somebody that's improved from a detached retina, and it is using my palm light, and that's 1 minute of the red and 1 minute of the near infrared with the eyelids closed. So and if it's a little bright, one could always pull it back a little bit. But we've had really good results with helping to heal the eyes of different things to help improve the health of the eye, and then the eye can heal the way it needs to. But yes, it can help. And just using the two wavelengths of 660 and 810, or 660 and 1050, is something else, how that works. But do you need to protect the eyes from the three wavelengths? No. If this device had the wavelengths in the UV and blue spectrum, that is something that could be harmful to your eyes. But especially, I've said again and again, with our devices, is yes, you can wear some glasses, blocking glasses, but what you want to do is you want to absolutely close your eyelids. And with the eyelids closed, it's not only going to reduce the light a little bit, but it's going to diffuse the light. So the light is going to be very, very uniform over the retina. So there's no hot spots there whatsoever. And so that's what I would suggest people do if they have our devices, if they want to. Now, if you want to treat longer, you could always put either dark sunglasses for comfort, or even red blocking glasses. Okay. Okay. Can PBM be used on or over the heart for heart disease? Thank you, Susan, for your question. We've had people using it on their heart. We're hoping that at some point in time, it looks very, very favorable that PBM could be helpful for myocarditis. And I've talked to a number of researchers and some professors about that, and they believe that it could be very helpful. And so we're looking for somebody who would support us with a study. Studies can be extremely costly, but it's not a problem it's not a problem with the treatment. It's just trouble trying, it's a lot of cost to try and do those types of things. Okay, we're coming along. We're just going to go on for about 5 more minutes here, and then we're going to call it quits. So, Marie, thank you for your question. How about hernias that some women get after babies? I've had 5 born at home, and it can be painful if I pick something up to have. I can massage them back in, but I'd love to know the way to use the handheld device on that area. 1 minute, 3 minutes. For something deeper, I would say that you really want to do more time. So depending on the depth, you might want to move that treatment time up to, let's say, 3 minutes and 5 minutes. Or if you're talking deeper, let's say a hip, you want to spend 5 minutes of the red and 10 minutes of the near infrared. So that kind of thing. Elizabeth is asking for reducing general inflammation markers in your blood work in a joint. Where would one apply the super palm? Oh, I see, versus in a joint. Okay. If a person, and I know others are doing this as well, is it's possible to, you have a lot of blood flow right through your neck. There's no reason why you couldn't use the light on your neck for the blood flow and possible to help. I will say there's some information out there too to help with healing, is the beautiful combination of red and methylene blue. Check out one website I know out there is methylene, METHYLENE, blue, BLUE.red, not .com, .red. Have a look there, and you can read some things about how methylene blue can be very, very helpful when it comes to blood and other things, and especially combining that with red light. Okay, so more questions here. So, Peter, thank you very much for your question. So IBD, irritable bowel disease, yeah, I believe that it can be helpful. I know that I've heard of some stories already with people being helped with IBD. One other thing with IBD is also irritable bowel disorder, is to find out if there's anything triggering that. And I can tell you, in the early days of as a father, I used to love Planters peanuts, and I could pretty much polish off a whole jar if I got sitting watching TV. So I believe I did it to myself. But what happened is I started having really bad IBD, where or irritable bowel syndrome, where I'd fold up in pain about 3, 4, 5 o'clock in the morning, and it would be hours before I could get back to sleep, and nothing would happen. It was just like such severe cramps in my bowels. And I found out that so this was happening. The doctors just gave me a prescription of some white chalky stuff that I was supposed to have every day. And then I heard a program. This is many, many years ago. Well, close to, I guess, 35 years ago or 40. And it was this guy saying that, if you have some kind of problem like that, check out what you eat, like write it down, what you eat every time it happens. What did you eat up to 24 hours before that? And in my case, what happened is I decided, okay, I'm going to do this. So every time it happened, I wrote down what I ate. And I used to, like I say, I'd watch some TV at night and crack open a jar of Planters peanuts. Well, it turns out that I must have been quite allergic to it. And it was causing me not instantaneous problems, but 4 or 5 hours later, I'd be in trouble. And so I stopped eating peanuts. And for 2 months, I didn't have any problems. And then I thought, you know, those Reese's peanut butter cups. I mean, those things are just to die for. So I thought I would try one of those after about 2 months. Well, I think I nearly died, and that was such pain. So it turned out that peanuts was the triggering point, and if it wasn't for that one broadcast that I heard, I would have never figured it out. And no doctor was tell me check out what you eat, that it could be a problem. So that's what happened for me, and I was able to learn from it. And the only time I got into trouble was once in a while, maybe eat a bag of chips and learn 4 hours later, go back to the garbage, pull out the bag of peanuts, the chips, and find out they had peanut oil on the chips. So yeah. Russ is asking, when I was about 7 years old, a firecracker exploded near my right ear, and I have had ringing in my ears since. Could it help with me that I'm almost 70 years old? Well, that would be very interesting. That's 63 years from the time that it happened. I can tell you that one person was a senior. He was 75 years old. And when he was 30 years earlier, it was 45, 75, 45. Yeah. 30 years earlier, he had he had been involved near an explosion. And ever since then, he had like Niagara Falls in his ear all the time. He did the light treatment on his ear, and one treatment, the noise disappeared, but he could hear through that ear. And the thing was that some of these things, you're going to have to treat that for the rest of your life then. He decided he was just going to live with the ringing in the ear instead of buying one of my devices. I can't explain these things, but that happens. But one treatment, he did tell me it lasted more than 24 hours, the loss of that ringing in his ear. So pretty amazing. Okay, so there's James is also asking one other thing. Let's see, James, if you want to mix the two. Okay, I'll have to follow that one through. Brian, thank you, Brian, for your comments. Yeah, there's light can, red light can, and near infrared can go directly to the mitochondria in the cells and supercharge the mitochondria. Beautiful stuff. Thank you, Brian, for your mention. We'll have to see as things go forward as to, they said at one point you couldn't use, there's a whole pile of naysayers that you can't use it for this, can't use it for that, can't use it for that. They say you can't use it for your thyroid. Well, we've had people improve their thyroid condition. You got to be very careful with that and monitor it with your doctor, but it's possible to actually help your thyroid come into balance. And the other thing is other types of issues in other parts of the body, like let's say cancer. They found now that that light therapy doesn't help cancer to proliferate. It actually does the opposite. It kind of stands in the way. It doesn't help cancer. So there's some new research on there. All right. I'm sorry I can't. There's still a lot more questions. I want to thank you, everyone, for joining us tonight. Please remember to join us next Tuesday and tell your friends about it. Thank you for joining us tonight, and may God richly bless you.